All right, guys, welcome to Roots Online. Today we're doing things a little bit different, aren't we?
We are, yeah. It's going to be a bit of a different one.
Yeah.
Hopefully you'll enjoy it, get some from it.
Yeah, we're going to be asking each other a series of questions. Personal questions, probably, yeah.
Yeah, personal and spiritual type questions.
Yeah, stuff that will hopefully help you guys in navigating through life.
Hopefully.
But yeah, here goes.
So we've already written out the questions, so we're just going to read them. Okay, first question is, have you ever regretted your choice to follow God? Bit deep.
It's a bit deep. I wouldn't say the word regret.
Okay.
I would say that I have resented God at some point when I was younger, because everyone used to go to parties. And I used to go to church on the weekends.
Yeah.
I'd be in the house of God, and I'd enjoy it. I'd love it. But then when I got to school on Monday, everyone would be talking about what happened on the weekend, and then I'd start thinking, "Wow, why do I get to miss out? Why does everyone else get to have fun?" And I started to sort of resent God in a way, to be like, "Well, if being saved is like this, it's not fun. Like everyone else gets to have fun, gets to do what they want." But until I realized, getting older and having more maturity, that saved my life. Being away from all that stuff, I didn't get involved in things I shouldn't have been involved in, and that's a testimony in itself, to be honest. So so I wouldn't say regret. I'll just say maybe resented a little bit because I wanted to party. But
it's not all that.
Yeah, it's not all that apparently. Yeah.
Okay.
So Tash, what was the biggest change in your behaviour since you allowed Jesus into your heart?
So I think obviously my rebellious streak has changed.
Yeah.
I was always quite a rebellious person. So even though growing up in church, not having that relationship with God, Jesus, I didn't really have any conviction from him. So when I knew what the Bible said, and I still went and done it anyway. So things like getting tattoos and all the things of my past life, everything. So that has definitely changed. I feel like I'm a lot more at ease, maybe. I don't feel like I need to rebel against anything anymore. Yeah. And I've still got that little streak, but I know that it's a different type of thing to what it once was. Because as soon as I made that decision to follow God and had that conviction in me, it just changed my complete mindset. So everything that I wanted to do before, I now had a conviction in me that just took that away, that all them desires were just completely stripped away and gone. So definitely that rebellious part of me that wanted to live life for myself is gone, and I would just want to live my life for God now. So
it's amazing.
What was the turning point in your life?
The turning point, I think, was 2016.
Okay.
When the church I was going to split, and it wasn't necessarily because it split. It was because I got to be isolated with God, and I got to be in a space where I was just like, it's you and God. It is not your parents. It's not your parents' prayers. It's not this religious thing that you're doing that if I do this I'll be fine type thing. It was just you and God. And after that happened, I was just like, that whole year was just crazy. 2016, that happens, and now I'm searching. I'm like, God, what is my relationship with you? And I'm like, I don't really know right now. I'm just going about life, and then start to get more into the Word of God and understanding that all he went through was for me. And that's the biggest realization you can have when you're walking with God, is everything he did for you, and the plan was there before you were even born. And then to search and ask him directly, what do you want me to be doing? And then I ended up in this church. I ended up doing things I never thought I would do, like this youth stuff.
Youth work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
This little gem.
I mean, whoa. Like, if you asked me then, I would have told you I'd never do anything like this.
If we asked you end of last year, you'd have said no.
No, street cred. Too much street cred.
No street cred.
Too much street cred.
Lost it already.
But yeah, I think that was the turning point for me anyway.
Amazing.
So Tash,
Yeah.
what character trait do you believe gets in the way of you and God?
My stubbornness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm a very, very stubborn person. Too stubborn for my own good, I've been told. But yeah, I think like my stubbornness, because I don't like people telling me what to do. And if I know that someone is telling me that I need to change or do something, and I don't want to receive that, I won't do it. Even if I know it's true, I will not do it.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely does get in the way of my relationship with God sometimes, because if like God's challenging me on something and I don't feel ready to do it, my stubbornness will sort of kick in, and I'll do it in my own timing rather than God's timing, which obviously I know is really bad, and it's something I am working on. But yeah, that stubbornness in wanting to do it my way rather than His way is definitely a barrier.
I get you.
But yeah, I'm just asking God to deal with that, soften my heart, and help me to just release some of that stubbornness, because I know it can be a good trait sometimes. But I think the level of my stubbornness is gone beyond good. So something I need to deal with, I think. Have you ever been a tick the box Christian?
Yeah.
Explain.
Definitely. I think growing up, because you, like you said, like you grew up in church. I grew up in church as well, and I got into a routine of doing things in church, and I got used to a certain way that, in a way, it replaced what God does. Like, it replaced Him, because now I had to have church a certain way. Like, it didn't. If it wasn't the way I normally do it, I'd be like, well, that was different. But now let's get back to what we are. Like, this is all right. This is now church. Let's get back to that. So now I would turn up to church knowing, right, I'm going to turn everything on. I'm going to put the microphones on, everything, and then we're going to have teaching, prayer, worship for 30 minutes, and then they're going to preach for an hour. And I knew it, and I thought that's what I'm going to stick it to. I'm sticking to that, and that's who I am.
Yeah.
And you get lost in that, especially because I was in like the music department, that you get lost in the fact that everything has to be the same, and you are literally ticking a box with God. You're just like, right, so I read my word, so I'm good. I didn't understand it, I just read it.
Yeah.
Like, and then you'd come with these fun facts that you can tell people just because you've read the word, but your relationship with God isn't actually there. Like, your heart is like rotten, but you could tell, like, half the time it would be like, I had all these facts, like, oh, I know the word, I've read that, but I had no relationship with God. I was just like everybody else who was just there, just like getting their weekly drug of church. Like, that's all it was. So I would urge you guys, like, don't do that.
No.
Don't do it.
No.
Don't even go there. Like, seek a relationship with God, and that realization that He's more than a routine. Like, He will change things, and that's probably what made it harder for me, is that once I started realizing, no, God is not a stagnant God.
No.
And He will always ask you to do things sometimes you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And especially we've seen that in church, like, just God does something you just didn't expect, and then he wants you to step out in a way you don't normally want to. But if you're ticking the box and you're just reading the word, but you're not really having a relationship with Him, that's going to take its toll, and it doesn't end well, ever.
No.
Never ends well. So, yeah. What did you used to do when you felt out of control of your mind?
So I've actually been thinking about this a lot. So I think, like, obviously because I've struggled with my brain and insecurities and everything that goes on in this crazy thing, I always used to turn to like the world and what the world had to offer.
Yeah.
So things like drinking, like going out with my friends, doing things I shouldn't be doing. So I think that was always the draw for me, like, because you see it on social media, you see it with your friends, you see it everywhere, that if you've got something going on in your life, you just go and you drink away your problems and you forget things are going on. So I think that was always how I tried to deal with it, and because I have struggled with my brain for so long, that felt almost like a coping mechanism at that time. So when things started getting really tough, that's when I would just start maybe drinking a bit more at home, like just the odd glass of wine here and there or whatever, because that's all I knew. Like for me at that time when I was drinking, you think it helps you, you think that it puts you in a bubble that you're oblivious to everything else, and I guess to some extent I was, but I know it never actually fulfilled me in that sort of way. So when I obviously had that relationship with God, and then I started struggling with my mind, and I went to the world a couple of times, but because I had that relationship at that point and that conviction, it was awful. Like, it did not fulfill anything. It made me feel worse. I felt guilty, I felt condemned, like everything in me was just like, I was then struggling with my brain and struggling with the fact that I knew I was doing something that I really shouldn't be doing. So I think at that point, that was like a real turning point for me, like, that I knew when I was struggling, the only place I could go was to my word, to God, pray, ask people to pray for me, because there's no fulfillment in the world. There was a time that I thought there was, but now with that relationship with God, it's just all empty. It literally just made me feel so much worse, and I look at it now and think, like, what a mess I was getting myself into, because that's what society tells you is going to help you, but it really doesn't. And when you have God is the only thing that can help you through them struggles.
Definitely.
And just reading your word, and even if it feels like it's not going in and it feels like, how is that going to help me, that truths and the truths of the Bible really just takes root, and when you are struggling, it comes out and you just think, okay, wow, I did not know that was there. And that peace of God, like, only God can give you that peace. So
definitely.
I think, that's what I used to do, but now it's the Bible and God and praying that gets me through when my brain feels a bit crazy.
Wow. It's great.
How do you respond if God doesn't answer your prayers how you think he would?
I feel like I'm laughing every time.
I know, it's like question. A nervous laugh.
It's like, oh man. I think I used to actually react quite angrily before, because to me it was like, if the word says so, then it's so. So to the point where I remember there were times when I would go out and look at a mountain and literally say, why isn't it moving? Like, he said, if you have faith like mustard seed, like, why isn't it happening? So I literally have, maybe it was just a bit of childishness as well, but it was like, and taking the word out of context as well, but it was also like an anger out of, God, not wanting God, like wanting God to do what I have just asked him. But yet it doesn't really work like that. It's like you ask God, how do I fit into your plan? What do you want for me? And it was like, how I would react a lot of times would be almost like the world, if you're God, why would this happen? Or not understanding really I'm the problem, like it's my issue here. Like, this wasn't like a Jacob situation where you're wrestling with God for his blessing. This was like, I know I'm wrong, but you're still not doing what I want you to do. And it's just, I mean, it's comical sometimes when you realize, no, I'm the problem. Like, it's not God, it's you. It's not God that is the problem. And sometimes you need to, like, look at yourself and say, you know, I'm wrong. I just want to know what you want, you know.
Yeah.
But now I don't react the same way. If God does something, brilliant. If he doesn't, brilliant. He's still God. Like,
Yeah.
he's still my Lord and Savior, and that doesn't change. It just means, right, so what do you want out of this situation? That's where now it's like your relationship with God kicks in. You're like, right, so that didn't happen. That means you have something else in store for me. There's something else that's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
So God, align me with your will. And that's the difference now, anyway.
Yeah. Amazing.
All right, so what's been the most challenging thing for you in terms of following Jesus Christ?
I think the most challenging thing is not wanting to disappoint him. So I've got a real issue with disappointing people. It really affects me. So I know it's different with God, but I always have that little bit of a thing in my brain, oh, what if I disappoint him? So if I know God's challenged me to do something, and I'm not doing it, I start to then struggle really badly.
Yeah.
And I know it's something I need to work through, and I know it's something I need to deal with.
Yeah.
But it's always that inner fear, I guess, of what if I'm a disappointment to God? What if I've not done good enough? What do I need to do to get there? But I'm slowly realising that obviously it's not based on what we do.
Yeah.
It's based on what he did for us. So even though there's things that God's going to challenge us with, and we need to walk out with that because it's being obedient.
Yeah.
It's just having that in your head that it's not based on our works, it's based on our relationship. So as long as that relationship is right and that you're seeking him, you're in his word and you're living your life for him, that's what matters. He's not disappointed, he's pleased that you've stepped out and he's pleased that you've had a go.
Yeah.
So it's getting that in my brain, but that is always my biggest challenge, I think, is just that fear of disappointment, but knowing deep down that I'm not a disappointment, if that makes sense.
I get you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Okay. So what is your favourite personal testimony?
I don't know if it's my favourite, but it's the one that jumps out at me, I guess, most of the time. It was the first time I got healed. Any type of healing happened on my body, ever. I was about 15 or 16, I think, somewhere there. And I was at a church conference, and it was the first day of conference. And we're in the hotel with some of my friends, and we're just play fighting, as lads do. And I hit the corner of my leg on the corner of one of the tables in the hotel room, and it was just agony. And I was walking with a limp most of the time. And then we were asked to pray for healing, just touch the place where it hurts, whatever it is that's hurting you. So I went on my foot and I touched it, and I just started praying. And I remember it was about 5-7 minutes prayer, because I'd looked at my phone before.
Okay.
And after.
It's very specific.
Very specific. And I remember it just went.
Wow.
It just went, and I was so in shock, because it's funny because I'm praying and believing. Yeah. But when it happens, I'm so shocked. Yeah. Which is something I shouldn't have been shocked, but
no. But it's always that weird thing,
it's like when it happens, it's so amazing. And when it went, I couldn't help myself but go to the front and dance in front of a couple hundred people.
Wow.
Yeah. And it wasn't like any of them knew what had happened to me. No. But I knew.
It's that personal experience that you just had.
I knew what God just did, because I couldn't walk properly on that leg because of that. And I was just from that day, I was man, he's so real, and he, at any point, he can take it away.
Yeah, that's
your
amazing.
pain if he wants, but yeah.
Oh, I love
That's,
it.
yeah.
Love a good healing testimony.
Yeah. Right, so what would you say to a young person that's contemplating walking with God? Why do it?
Obviously, it's the best choice that you can make. I get it, and like you said earlier, when you're younger, you don't really understand the importance of following God. But you definitely value it as you get older. So you could be at school or anything now, or at whatever you're doing. I don't know why I said at school, because they're not at school.
Yeah.
But anyway, like, you could have everything you feel like you need. You could have all your friendships, you could have a good family life, you could have your games or PlayStations, whatever it is nowadays. I don't know, I'm not down with the kids. But you could have all them materialistic things, but it's never going to fulfill you. I think it's just it's got no value. So when you've got all the things around you, you could still feel empty. You'll always have that thing that you know you need.
Yeah.
And you'll try and fill that gap with more materialistic things, like more games, more clothes, more friendships, more anything. It could be whatever you value in your life, you'll try and fill it with more and more.
Yeah.
But there'll always be that empty space in you that only God can fill.
Yeah.
And I think as you get older, you might have a bit of a resentment now, like you said earlier, like that you can't go and do things, or there's things that you feel you can't do. But you'll really value that as you get older, because the importance of Jesus in your life and having that relationship is priceless. Like, it's so important, and just knowing that you've got someone that you can just turn to, and knowing that, like, I like control, but knowing that I am not in control of my life gives you such a, like, amazing freedom, I guess, because there's things that we can't do, like things that are impossible for us, but we've got a God that makes it possible. So just knowing that we can turn to God through all things, and He might not answer our prayers as we think, but He's working in it, and just knowing that we have that hope and that faith in Him, that's all that is important. Like, we could go through trials and stuff and lose everything that we valued, but if we've got God, none of that matters, because you have that thing, that person that you can just turn to, that will just give you peace, that will give you freedom, will give you love, to help you to know who you are. And that's the only thing that can do that. The world, society, materialistic things are never going to fill that gap that you've got, because only Jesus can fill it. If you are wondering about whether to accept Jesus, we really just encourage you to do it. It is the best choice you can make, and if you feel like you've made that decision but you're not quite walking out in it, we just want to invite you now to just open yourself up to Him and allow Him in, because it will change your life. There's so much in this world that is scary, there's things that we can't control, but we have a God who is in control. So we just urge you to call out to Him, invite Him in, and let Him change your life.
And if you want to chat, message us, inbox us. We'll put everything on here, and we'll love to talk to you and encourage you. But thank you guys for watching, and I hope you can, let us know what you learned and what questions you still have, and we'd love to speak to you.
Thanks, guys.